So a few weeks ago, I did a review for the trailer of Avatar: The Way of Water, where I said, so why then the concern for Avatar 2? Well, it's pretty simple, really. I thought the trailer looked like an incredibly beautiful Pixar film, and I concluded that video with the following. If I'm right, and Avatar 2 can't rely on special effects to tickle our pickles, then it's going to have to rely on its script and Sam Worthington. Not a pretty proposition. So it's safe to say, I didn't exactly have high hopes for Avatar 2, but having just rushed back from the cinema, I'm happy to say that I was wrong. The film looked fantastic, and I can honestly say I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Well, for the most part at least. There are some pretty glaring problems, but I'll get into that later. Now, seeing as the film just came out, I'll do my best to keep the spoilers as light as possible, but you have been warned. So why don't you lovely lot get yourself comfy and join me after me intro. Big Dave's Big Reviews. Okay, before the plot summary, if I could kindly ask you all to subscribe to the channel. We're very new, so each subscriber really does mean the world to us. Thank you. We join Jake Sully and his wife Neytiri more than 10 years after the end of the first film. They've got a lovely family of 2 boys and 2 girls, one of those girls being the adopted daughter of Sigourney Weaver's character from the first film, who seems to have gotten knocked up whilst in Avatar form. There's also a human lad called Spider, who was too young to leave Pandora with the other injected humans, and so has become sort of a third son to Jake, but maybe less so Neytiri. All seems to be going well when those pesky sky people, humans, return to Pandora and kick off another war. I'll explain why they've returned later, but suffice to say, they didn't come in peace. So after some guerrilla warfare, Jake realises the humans are targeting him and his family specifically. He decides it's in the best interest of the tribe and his family for them to leave the forest and join the aquatic island tribes where he hopes they'll be safe. Despite this, the hunt for him and his family continues. Right, I think that's probably enough of an overview. Let me break down what I thought of the film. Let's start where my previous Avatar 2 video left off, the visual effects. As mentioned in the intro, both me and Mrs. Big Dave were not impressed with the VFX in the trailer. We both thought the characters looked cartoonish, and it left me wondering whether the film would be a flop, because it lacked the wow factor in this department that the original had. Well, I can say having seen it on the big screen, it looked fantastic. Well, for the most part. My only complaint, and I'm sure you lot will think this is a silly one, is that some of the characters didn't look as realistic as others. Now this puzzled me for a bit whilst I was at the cinema. Why did some of the characters look great and yet others triggered my brain to think they looked like PlayStation 3 characters? And you know what? I think I solved it. As stupid as this sounds, I found the characters with decent head proportions all looked really good, but those with tiny, narrow heads seemed to bug me. Sadly, this included Jake Sully as well. They've given him those big macho dreads, but his Swede is disproportionately small to his frame. And he's not the worst offender. Being careful of spoilers, I will say that there are some new avatars in the film, and they pretty much all looked off to me. Again, they all had the small, narrow heads. And don't get me wrong, it's not just avatars. Some of the Na'vi look more convincing than others too, and I reckon it's for the same reason. Anyway, more than likely this is just me being a muppet, and you lot won't feel the same way, but it affected me, so I had to say it. That minor complaint aside, the rest of the film looked really good, especially the water graphics that I know a lot of time and money was spent on. My biggest compliment is that I rarely felt like I was watching an animated film, and the rare occasions that the VFX did bug me were few and far between. So we're off to a good start. Now let's talk about a few of the negatives. Where better to start than the plot, as there's a pretty big hole in it, well, in my opinion at least. At the start of the film, we learn that the humans have returned to Pandora because Earth is dying, and so mankind wants to settle there. However, later in the film, we learn that really the trip is about extracting a super valuable whale gland that prevents aging. The film claims it's this liquid that's funding the trip, but surely if mankind is facing an existential crisis on Earth, finance doesn't really come into it. Yeah, bit of a head scratcher that. Then there's the Sully family leaving their tribe in the first place. Jake says it's to protect the tribe and his family, but it makes no sense. The humans are clearly here and already at war with the tribe. Why would they stop just because Jake left? Surely some of the humans will continue to chase his family, whilst the rest keep up the war with the tribe. It's especially stupid as the war seems to be going quite well for the Na'vi at the time, and at least now Jake knows that there's a team hunting him, so he can prepare accordingly. Then again, I suppose he's got a lot on his mind, since it turns out that his Mrs. Neytiri is a bit of a racist.
I hear you're a racist now, father.
That's right, she really doesn't like her kids hanging out with the human boy Spider, despite her husband being, you know, human originally. It really doesn't make sense. But I feel James Cameron and co did it for plot reasons, which is obviously not a good enough excuse. Now don't get me wrong, I loved Zoe Saldana's portrayal of Neytiri in the first film, and she was practically my favourite character other than this mad lad. And again in the sequel, I think she's great too. This line aside,
protect the people.
Sadly, she's relegated to telling Jake he needs to stop running and start fighting for large parts of the film, which is blatantly obvious to everyone except Jake himself, by the way. But Jake keeps saying, "Nah, it'll be alright, mate, let's just keep hiding." Lastly, with a few exceptions, the human characters are far too one-dimensional. I know we're the bad guys in the movie, but come on, most of us aren't that bad. Then there's the running time. It's too bloody long. Clocking in at around 3 hours and 20 minutes, I have to say that even my iron bladder was struggling. I'd only had 3 pints of Italian lager, so it wasn't like I was chucking it back in the cinema. Most of this blatant runtime comes from the middle section of the film, which I like to refer to as the Free Willy section. Now don't get me wrong, there's some good stuff in there, but it could have been done a lot quicker. The other culprit for bloat is the ending. It's drawn out far too long in my opinion. So whilst there's all the action you'd expect from a film like this, by the end, I found it was less gripping and more, "Can we get a wriggle on please? I've got a YouTube video to make." But that's enough moaning. Now let's discuss the good stuff. I thought the majority of the characters were really interesting. We spent a lot of time with the Sully kids and I thought they all did really well. I especially loved the early to middle parts of the film when the Sully family adapts to life with the water Na'vi. There's a few little subplots and plenty of lovely scenes that kept me grinning like an idiot. Funnily enough, I thought this bit was going to drag, so I was planning to nip to the bar for another beer, but I'm really glad I didn't, as I enjoyed these scenes immensely. I've already praised the special effects, but the VFX artists really excelled themselves by creating the first Gen X Na'vi. Just look at this magnificent bastard. And there's some genuinely moving parts in the film. Yes, I'm a grown man watching animated blue people on a screen, but I got a little emotional in parts, especially some of the wholesome father and son moments, as sadly, we don't seem to get a lot of those these days. I can honestly say I cared about the characters, and not just the Na'vi, but some of the animals of Pandora as well, which also get a bit more of a look in this film. I even felt uncomfortable during a hunting scene, which is crazy really when you think about it. Now I've heard some of the criticism for the acting, but by and large I thought it was good. Sam Worthington, who I do like by the way, wasn't exactly amazing here, but to be fair to the lad, he wasn't given the best lines to work with. The rest of the cast did pretty well, all things considered. Certainly none of them were jarring or detracted from the overall experience. And I know I said the ending went on too long, but the initial stages of it were great. We see the water Na'vi in action against the Humies, and I was really engrossed in the majority of it. The score was good without being exceptional, but to be honest, the sound effects were so loud I didn't really get a chance to appreciate the music that much. So what are my final thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water? Well, as I said in my previous Avatar film, never underestimate James Cameron, and that proved to be the case again. He's gone and made a really good film, which could, in my opinion, have been great if he'd been a bit more disciplined in the editing room and not fudged in so many annoying plot contrivances. I've mentioned a few of them in this review, but I actually wrote down quite a few more, but didn't want to include them as I felt they'd give away the plot too much. Visually, the film is stunning, though I do worry it won't look so good outside of a cinema setting. I like most of the characters and found myself enjoying the journeys they go on. Is it a classic? No. There's too many flaws for that, but I can honestly say I'm excited about the next film in the franchise, which is not something I was expected to say before I saw this film. Anyway, what are you lot still doing listening to this video? Get yourselves down to your local cinema and give this film a go. I hope, like me, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Bloody hell, you've made it to the end of the show. Well done you. Now, if you could be a diamond and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, that will make sure we can keep in touch in future. Please also drop a like on the video and maybe even comment below. A bit of banter is always welcome. I'd like to wish you all the best. Until next time.